was here was July. Talk about something that could be a little bit uncomfortable to talk about. I thought you might be up for it. Hang-ups. No one likes to deal with their own hang-ups. Very few persons like to even consider that they have hang-ups. You might remember if someone kind of just said to you, you got hang-ups, so you're really hung up. No, you don't understand. Right? Immediately, there's a defensive reaction. You don't understand. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna indeed is telling us we have some hang-ups. And these hang-ups are not just routine psychological debris that's lingering in our consciousness. The hang-ups that Krishna is referring to in Bhagavad Gita are major barriers, major impediments to our progress. Maybe some of you have gotten the feeling that your life is kind of stuck in the rut, even though it can seem externally to be making progress financially or in terms of education, in terms of job promotions, or even just in terms of plain old sociability. You seem to be increasing your sphere of social influence. People seem to respond to you. We all like to think that. Still, I know some of you are thinking deep inside, where is my life really going? I seem to just be repeating the same patterns again and again. And those patterns run very deep. Why am I struggling so much? Why am I so affected by what other people think about me? What is it that I'm really supposed to be doing in life? For persons who are willing to ask those kind of questions, Krishna explains, take a look at some very deep hang-ups. These hang-ups affect all conditioned living entities. Those of you who are reading Bhagavad Gita, and I hope many of you are, you're familiar with this phrase, conditioned living entities. That means living entities who identify with material conditions. Those material conditions are your own body, your own mind. You take those to be the self. External material circumstances, you identify with those conditions. And in this way, we become classified as conditioned souls. Spiritual beings who have forgotten their spiritual identity and instead identify as the self, material circumstances, material coverings like the body and mind. As long as we identify with material conditions, how can we be free? We've imprisoned ourselves. I know many of you have some understanding that you are a spiritual entity. But then you ask yourself, how does a spiritual entity function? Especially in a world of conditions, especially inside a body and mind of conditions. What does a genuine spiritual entity do? We need to know these things if we're ever going to actually be free. Now, one thing we should bear in mind is that somehow or other along the way, in the course of this lifetime and many lifetimes, we've gotten the idea that the body is meant for pleasure. Now just think, where did we get that idea from? Because we had that idea implanted in our material consciousness. Consciousness affected by material illusion is called material consciousness. Although actually consciousness indicates our spiritual identity. But we're identifying with matter. We're identifying with the body and mind. And somehow that we have this idea that the body is meant to give us pleasure. Now suppose that's not true. What do you think? Suppose it's not true. That means we could really be on the wrong track, striving so intensely for psychophysical enjoyment. And you know how you size up other people in that way. You don't say it, but when you look at other persons, materially I'm speaking, you're calculating, well, what can you do for my psychophysical enjoyment? What potency do you have for stimulating my mind and my body? How can you make the world a more enjoyable place for me? This is our bottom line for increasing our influence in this world, for increasing our capacity for material enjoyment. We want to ally ourselves with others. Okay, I'll help you in your psychophysical enjoyment if you help me in my psychophysical enjoyment. In this way, we think there's strength in numbers, right? Who here wants to be alone? Anyone? Raise your hand. Who wants to be alone all the life? Anyone? Want to be alone all your life? You want to be alone all your life? All your life alone? No. Anyone? Anyone here? Yes. Why is that? Why don't you want to be alone? Never thought about that. What about you? Why don't you want to be alone?
Just because of the loneliness, period. I'd rather have somebody to enjoy my life with.
Someone to enjoy your life with. And what does that exactly does that mean? Technologically speaking, enjoy your life with. Entertainment, infotainment.
Somebody to laugh with.
Huh?
Yes, yes. Somebody to laugh with. And entertainment, yes.
Yeah, someone who can provide at least psychological stimulation. Yes, of course. Anyone else? Why don't you want to be alone?
Sometimes you want to share
What?
whatever it is, experiences that you have. You
What?
want to share.
Share experiences. And then it's like a give and take. Okay, I'll tell you my experiences. You'll tell me your experiences.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you're part of something bigger, yes?
I think for me, speaking for myself personally, I think it makes you feel less insignificant.
Very good point.
World.
You feel, so you want someone who makes you feel that you have some significance.
I don't even think it's someone. I mean, like especially now with like social media and everything, it's like it's everybody's way of trying to not feel so small in such a huge world. So even in that way, like not being alone, even like when you're alone, you have to be on like on the media, knowing that you're not alone and sharing.
So even when you're so-called alone, you make sure that you're not really alone.
Yeah, by like sharing whatever
Yes.
it is that you're kind of doing or
Twittering away and
Yeah.
Facebooking away and linking away and
Instagramming now.
yes. Now, did you know that psychological studies have shown that all the technology for communications hasn't actually made people more sociable in the deep, satisfying sense. They actually have become more lonely. So it's a kind of hyper external sociability that these rapid communications produce. But it doesn't really touch the core being. I'm sure you know persons who have hundreds of friends on Facebook, thumbs up, thumbs down. but you're shocked to find out they're actually lonely, right? Yeah? So psychological studies have shown that actually all the social networking has just made a very busy exterior. But when it comes to touching someone's heart, those media don't touch the heart. And people are actually more lonely than ever. They have less friends than ever. I forgot the exact statistic, but for the USA, the average number of friends, meaning someone you can actually reveal your mind to, it's dropped down to something about 2, not including family members. And this is an all-time low. Any others? Why don't you want to be alone?
I was going to say kind of what she said. Just you want to matter to somebody.
You want to matter to someone. I like that. Could you go deeper into that? You want to matter to someone.
I mean, most people, they go to a job and they really feel like they don't really matter that much unless they're in some kind of authority position. But even then, there's someone who has authority over you. So at least if you have, a spouse or a child or
that you can be authority over.
You matter to them.
You can be an authority over them.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, you honest man.
Or some significance, not necessarily an authority, but you matter. Their life would be affected without you in it, and you know that, and they know that.
Yeah.
I think it's the caring part. I think caring about having somebody care just as much about you as you care about them. I think that's where the loneliness comes in, where if you don't have that, the fulfillment.
So people are willing to sacrifice their autonomy just to try to work in tandem with someone else. You're willing to compromise. You're willing to sacrifice some of your style in order to accommodate someone else's style, in the hopes that you can generate a more pleasant, more pleasurable reality. So no one really wants to be alone. At the same time, we see people have such difficulty maintaining relationships. Have you noticed that? You go to the bookshops and there are just so many books about how to have a relationship. It's become like a lost art. How to say no, how to say yes. Persons who don't know how to say no. Persons who say yes too much. Persons who love too much. Persons who don't love enough. I don't know how it goes. Yeah? So we see that no one wants to be alone. None of you here want to be alone. Yet, we also see that there's so much difficulty in having relationships. They don't last. Yet you want to keep trying. So what to do? What do you think?
Just keep getting punched down or knocked out. Get back up, knocked out. It's like so repetitive that after a while it feels like you don't even feel the knockouts anymore. They're actually comforting after a while, like, oh, where's my knockout?
At least it's something, right?
Yeah, you're feeling something. Like,
Yeah, at least. How many agree to that? At least, you know it's going to be you're going to be knocked down, but at least it's something that happens in life, huh?
I think relationships don't last because people don't know how to build relationships. So maybe it's just better stop and relearn if you have time, and if you still want to.
But what you say they don't know how to have relationships now? But what is the point of the relationships? Yeah, please move up. The seats up front here are more expensive, you see. Thanks. Yes. What is the point of the relationships? Huh?
To help yourself and another person attain the goal of your life or strengthen.
So,
It's too hard.
again, you want an ally. I'll help you, you help me, because on our own, we can't make it. We don't want to be lonely. On our own, we can't achieve what we want. But I'm hoping that by hooking up with you, it'll be a powerful alliance. You'll get what you want, I'll get what I want. Right? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Honest. Yeah, that's good. Now, have you noticed that this alliance is generally concerned with various types of psychophysical stimulations? Stimulations of the mind, stimulations of the body. Have you noticed that? Is there anything higher to do than that? Have you ever wondered about that? I mean, it seems temporarily convenient. I can observe that people seem to find temporary convenience in a relationship of mutual psychological, physical stimulation. Often people say, well, there's nothing else to do. It may not be the greatest, it may not be everything, and it certainly won't last, but what else are you supposed to do with your body and mind, right? Are you just supposed to watch the clock and get old? You got a body, you got a mind, you got to do something, you know? You can remember when you were a teenager. What would it be like? I know it didn't happen, but what would it have been like if someone just told you, don't do anything with your mind and body? You would have flipped out. So here we see that no one wants to be alone, and that generally I find that people are willing to compromise. I know this is not going to last. I know that it's not going to be the everything that we're dreaming it's going to be, but hey, what else can you do? You got to do the best you can in this world, right? You got to cut wood with the best saw around. Looks like you, so. Right? Otherwise, anything than to go through another lonely night, a lonely weekend. How many of you, I wonder, would consider chemical relationship enhancers? Taking chemicals, supplements, in order to make a relationship favorable. Some scientists are actually discussing that and saying this is the way to go. Because they say human beings are just not staying together in stable relationships. And there's no doubt that human beings, they feel, are happiest when they're in a stable relationship, but the relationships aren't stable. So what to do? Maybe if you administer to human beings drugs that will make them more gooey in relationships, then finally they might be happy. The idea, see what you think about this. The idea is that, this is a theory, this is their theory. I'm not saying that I subscribe to this. You see, human psychology has not evolved much since the cave dweller days, in which basically the average lifespan was 31 to 35 years. So, even a few hundred years ago, the average lifespan was that. So if you are only going to live to your 35, how long would any relationship you start be? Let's say if you start a relationship at 20 or 18, whatever. You would basically, it's been calculated, you'd be with your partner for 11 years before one of you died. So in other words, what they're theorizing is that the human psychology hasn't advanced beyond being able to be in a relationship more than 11 years. Although the lifespan of the human beings apparently has increased, the average duration of life is in the 70s, but although the lifespan has increased, the psychology, they say, has not developed enough to have sustainable relationships for such a long period of time. What do you think? So what's the solution then? Just like you look at the statistics, the majority of marriages don't last. A bit over 50% of the first marriages fail, and then the percentage gets worse as you go to your second and third marriage. In other words, the probability of the relationship breaking up increases as you continue trying number 2, number 3. So obviously people want a soulmate. They want someone they can resonate with. But then you look at the statistics and it's obviously not happening. So therefore some scientists are saying, we need to help the situation. We need to help the people by giving them love drugs. Just like that feeling you get when you so-called first fall in love, this real kind of like buzzy feeling in your brain, you know? That's caused by a neurochemical, as many of you know, called oxytocin. So scientists are proposing that, you know, this chemical, oxytocin, you can actually make a nasal spray out of it. That brain chemical that floods your brain when you feel that you're falling in love, you know, that real racy, buzzy feeling. You can make a spray out of that chemical. And so you can just see when you're having some relationship difficulty, you just what do you think?
What's the name?
How many of you would do it? You.
Oh, come on, guys.
Why would you do it?
Just because it's true. Like relationships really don't last, and I think that would be like the easy fix-it Band-Aid. You know, if it was a spray that I'm like, you know, Mr. You know, yakety yak, I just take a spray and it'll sound sweet. I don't know. It's just like the quick fix-it Band-Aid thing. Like.
Well, that's what the scientists say. Look, why not try it? You know.
I mean, like, that wouldn't fix this, you know, the actual problem. I mean,
Because what happens is when the relationship loses its sparkle, because time corrodes it, the chemical supplements would, you know, bring back some of that buzz, because actually that buzzy feeling is because of chemicals in the brain. So scientists figure, why not bottle it, sell it to you at a good price, spray it up your nose, and you know you start looking at your partner with you know, fresh loving eyes. What do you think? Would you do it?
No,
Why not?
I mean, it's not. it's like somebody being bored and drinking to have a good time. Well, that's not solving the issue of being bored.
But people do drink, and they do that to, so therefore,
Yeah,
but they do exactly what you're saying. So,
but whenever they use it as a crutch to fix their boredom, that's when it becomes a problem.
well, they all do that.
It's still.
Are you going to tell people that when the weekend comes, of course they do it on the weekdays too, but when the weekend comes, no crutch, no intoxication?
No, to each person their own, but at the end of the day, the purest form of anything is just living this life, experiencing it for what it is. You're in a relationship and the person you're having your significant other, you're having the sparkle, it's lost the sparkle. Well, it's up to you two to bring it back together, to work it out, not to just do the American way of just taking a blue pill and just, oh, now I feel great. Now I love her.
Well, shouldn't you just try to be happy any way you can? What's wrong with using modern technology to attain your goals?
The temporary states.
Well, it's all temporary anyway. Why not just get it while you can, How many of you would feel comfortable in a chemically enhanced relationship?
And we're just becoming like food products now.
Huh?
We're becoming like food product, like cows, like how everything's like chemically produced, like to enhance or to make it bigger and tastier or juicier. So
Exactly.
that's what we are. It's like,
Well, why not just admit that you're just chemicals, and so to your mix of chemicals, add some other chemicals to keep the loving feeling. Yeah, he's nodding his head. You go for it, right?
Sure, makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. If we're just chemicals, why not just add some more chemicals to bring the love back, rather than just singing the blues. Where did the love go? Just oxytocin nasal spray and but just see, there's something about you all that wants natural love, right? You want to know that you're actually dealing in some kind of way which you can't understand, but you want to be dealing with someone's genuine feelings. You don't want to be dealing with someone's manipulated feelings, right? There's something about us that craves for the authentic, the genuine. That's why people are having a hard time accepting athletes who use, drug-enhanced performance. They just don't feel comfortable about it. Like, look, we want to see what your natural abilities are, unaided by any synthetic drugs. But the athletes who use these drugs, they say, look, we're just utilizing whatever is out there, whatever science has devised, it's there, so why not use it? Why do you have this purist idea? So when it comes to our personal relationships, many people just somehow they feel uncomfortable. You can just imagine looking at your significant other. Now, I'd just like to ask you, is this how you really feel, or am I dealing with the chemicals here? Now, some of you would say it doesn't matter, just take what's there and go with it, right? Who would say that? No one. So everyone here wants the natural, authentic relationship, unaided by any enhancers. Is that it? Now, how natural then do you want to be? Because what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita is that our attachment to the body and mind. How natural are we when we think, I am the body and mind, you are the body and mind, let's psychologically and physiologically interact. How natural is that? How authentic is that? Have you ever wondered? You see people grasping each other's minds and bodies. Are they really being authentic and dealing with reality? Have you ever wondered that? I see one person nod. You wondered, huh? I mean, it seems like there's nothing else to do, right? But at the same time, you're wondering, is this really authentic, right? What is this really accomplishing? You also wondered about that? At the same time, you didn't want to talk about it too loudly, right? Because, you know, people might be, you might scare them away, and then you'd be left alone.
Not the most romantic thing to
Right.
tell.
Yes. You just see you're going on a walk in the forest with a potential recruit, and and you just gotta, you know, did you ever wonder, is this for real? You can't really say that, right? Instead, it's the social thing to do, to fake it, right? How many of you have looked into someone's eyes and you just said, I'm for real? Come on, raise your hands. Come on. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Any more honest persons? Come on, get the hands up. Yeah. It seemed to be the thing to say at the moment, right? And you probably meant it when you said it. At the same time, you knew it wasn't going to last. But the whole point of life these days, in terms of the materialistic pursuit of temporary enjoyment, the whole point is just go with the moment. So if you just feel like that for a moment, what's wrong? You're being honest and true to the moment. That's considered very exalted state of being, to be true to the moment. And then when the moment changes, you can always excuse yourself. You can tell the person, well, I was being for real when I told you I was for real. But that moment has passed. Right? And so you can easily excuse yourself. So there's some part of us, though, that really wants to be for real, but maybe you've come to the conclusion it's not possible in this world to be for real. You gotta fake it to some degree. I think many of you would love to have a relationship in which you didn't have to fake it, but you soon learn that there's always a bit of show business involved, right? Right? So, at best, then you hope for a mixture, a relationship that's partially for real and partially faking it. You figure that's as best you can do in this world. You can't have your hopes too high, right? They just wind up being alone, right? So you have to downgrade. Just bring down your expectations and realize that you're not always going to be dealing with authenticity and genuineness. There's always going to be a bit of show business, a bit of faking, a bit of pretending, a mixture of that. You just don't want it to be too much, right? So, my point then is, since there's always going to be a bit of faking and pretending and show business in the so-called natural relationships, then what's wrong with adding some, chemicals to, to help out? Since you've already added a bit of pretense, what's wrong with some chemical enhancers to add in? Because the whole point is how to have that magic moment. If you can just produce a few magic moments, then well done, no matter how you do it. That's what the athletes say who use steroids or whatever, performance enhancers. Look, it's out there. We're just taking advantage of what's there in the world. Why are you trying to take our gold medals away or whatever? Take our honor away? baseball player, the legendary Willie Mays. He was asked some years ago about steroids. He said, well, you know, they weren't around when I was playing ball, but what can I say? If they were, I might have used them. I just want to win. What can you do? You want to win? You want to win. You use what's there. They weren't around when I was playing baseball, but I'm not going to present myself as being holier than thou. If they were around, I would have used them, you know, because I want to win. So similarly, many people would say, hey, I just want to love. I just want a successful relationship. I'm just using what's out there, you know. I want a winning relationship, right? I'm tired of being frustrated. If a bit of oxytocin nasal spray does it, hey, okay. After all, so many people are using psychiatric drugs, so why not, you know, drugs for relationships? So many people are using drugs for enjoyment, narcotics. Is marijuana legal in California?
No.
More or less.
Yeah, the police don't bother you. But it's now legal in Oregon and Wisconsin or something like that.
Colorado.
Colorado, yes. So there you go. Yeah. So do you mean to tell me that you want a completely natural life with no coffee, no caffeine, even from tea, no marijuana, no alcohol? Is that what you're all standing up for?
Yeah.
He shook his head. No way, right? Right. So therefore, then why not the relationship enhancer chemicals?
Because you want to feel like you're special.
But the relationship chemicals will make you feel that way.
But you'll know it's not genuine. You know it's not.
But when you take the alcohol and the marijuana, is that considered genuine? Ah. So by your own words, you shouldn't be using any of that.
Well, I'd like to think that I'm enlightened, so, you know, whoever I'm with would want me for me. But maybe I'm fooling myself.
Exactly. You got it. Exactly.
Maybe I'm,
Yeah.
a little arrogant. I don't know.
So based on what you're saying, we should take away all forms of intoxication, right?
No. In that one regard, no, I don't want to have to spray a spray in my spouse's face so that she'll be crazy about it.
But instead, you'll hand her a glass of wine, right? With candlelights, right?
Little music, yes.
Exactly. Mood enhancers.
Yes.
So, what's the difference? Huh?
It's old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned, what do you mean?
Intoxicating.
Hmm?
It's like old-fashioned intoxicating instead of the nasal spray.
Uh-huh.
It's like old-fashioned. Like
What is
wine-
old-fashioned?
Wine and
Really? No. No, there's still a lot of wine sold. Otherwise,
compared to like the nasal spray.
well, nasal spray is not out yet. You're waiting for it, huh? And what's more, suppose there are chemical pills made or chemical potions made that you can actually give to someone unknowingly. They would take it without knowing it. So we get all kinds of issues here now, both legal and beyond legal issues. Where do you draw the line? People are already, they're so dependent on intoxication for happiness. Everything from alcohol to cannabis to caffeine. And you know you're not going to take all that away unless you're a serious Bhakti yoga practitioner. So actually, what Krishna presents in Bhagavad Gita is the genuine natural life. Pleasure that is not material. Because as long as you're hung up on material pleasure, you're being artificial. Because you are spirit soul. That is Krishna's message in Bhagavad Gita. And who is Krishna to lecture about what is natural, genuine happiness? Krishna in Bhagavad Gita gives you the process to know him as the supreme source of pleasure, the supreme personality of pleasure. That's the goal of the yoga system. Beyond understanding the Supreme as the creator, the maintainer, the deliverer of the daily bread, the annihilator, beyond all that is understanding the Supreme as the supreme source of pleasure. Now, who would object to connecting to that? So what Krishna is presenting in Bhagavad Gita is that we are making a mistake by hooking up with matter. Even when the matter is in the form of someone's body or even someone's mind, we're making a big mistake trying to hook up with that. The hookup culture entails any kind of connection by the living entity with matter for the purpose of enjoyment. Now just see how you might fit into that hookup culture. Because people are ignorant of how to hook up spiritually. Naturally, then, they have to turn to matter for fulfillment. So what Krishna is doing in Bhagavad Gita is teaching you how to hook up with the spiritual energy and take shelter of that spiritual energy to connect you to the source of that spiritual energy. And the nature of that source of spiritual energy is pleasure. Who can deny that we are not who can say we're not interested in pleasure? Everyone is. That's what motivates you to keep struggling, keep working. You go to school to study, you get a job to make money, all thinking that this is going to contribute to my happiness. And then maybe I'll be able to help someone else be happy. If I can make a few persons happy, my life is successful. So everyone is concerned with the pleasure motivation. So what Krishna is trying to explain to in Bhagavad Gita is that this is not natural, the way you're going about things. This is artificial. You're trying to be someone that you're not. You're not a material entity. You're a spirit soul. Indeed, Krishna says that you are his part. So the full meaning of yoga is when the spiritual part reconnects with the spiritual whole. That is Bhakti yoga, the love supreme. As long as we are hung up on artificial pleasure, we're never going to be satisfactorily happy. We'll never be satisfied. So we can juggle relationships all we want, as rapidly as we want. You can keep potential partners in rotation, you know? You got a rotation plan. But you're not going to be happy by just juggling psychological and physiological stimulations. How can you touch the real person? That is the point of Bhagavad Gita. How you can actually connect with the real person by connecting with the source. You approach other persons through the source, by connecting to them through the source. Just like you benefit all the leaves of a tree by watering the tree at the root, not by watering each leaf individually. How many of you have tried to feed every part of your body individually? Huh? Who's done? Have you tried to put food in your ear, in your nose, between your toes? No. How do you benefit every part of your body? Huh? You put the food in your mouth, and it goes to the stomach, and the whole body's energized. So similarly, Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita that you find the root of existence. Apply your energies there. Apply your love there. And automatically you'll be nourished because you are part of the Supreme. Just like a leaf is part of the tree. But you don't water each individual leaf. You put the water at the root. So Krishna is trying to urge you to approach him as the root. Put your energies there. And automatically you'll be nourished. So we spoke in the beginning about hang-ups. We're really hung up on hooking up with matter. And this is what's spoiling our life. And we've done that not only in this life, but we've done it in countless lifetimes previously. And we don't even know what kind of bodies we've had in our previous life, where we were in our previous life, who were our family members in our previous life, who were our friends, who were our enemies. Roles could be reversed from life to life. In the graduate study to Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, you find the account of a husband and wife who were desperate to have a child. Particularly they wanted a son. They were desperate and it just wasn't happening. And then finally, through some psychic methods, the wife was able to conceive and have a son. But that child prematurely died after just a couple of years. And the husband and wife, they were just devastated. They were unconscious with grief. And then some Bhakti sages came in the midst of such intense devastation, lamentation. Some Bhakti sages showed up and explained to them, what about this? Don't you see? We can see it with our spiritual vision, and we want you to see it. That actually, in your previous lifetime, this spirit soul who now has taken birth as your son, in the previous lifetime, he was your enemy. And so he took birth in your family in this lifetime as your son, and then he died so quickly, plunging you into such pain. Don't you see it's your enemy getting back at you? What do you think about that? It's interesting, huh? It's interesting how karma works. So we're hung up on the external packaging. Perhaps you've been in relationships with persons who you start to get annoyed and then deeply frustrated. I don't think you're really dealing with me. Yeah, you had that feeling? I don't think you really know me. I don't think you're really connecting with me. That's true, actually, for everyone, as long as we are hung up on psychology and physiology. We're not connecting with the real person. So what to do? By understanding our genuine spiritual identity, we can be genuine. But as long as we're acting on the platform of just psychology and physiology, we're faking it. So Bhagavad Gita is asking you to be for real. And some people find it a tough pill to swallow. What do you mean be for real? I don't want to be for real. Faking it's a part of life. That's just the way it is. How many of your parents in their old age told you, you know, you should simply be authentic be for real. Very few of your parents said that. Look, you know, the world is what it is. You just got to do what you got to do. That's the way it is, you know. We didn't make the world like this, you know. Don't get too sentimental. Just get what you can out of it. Try to give a little to others. That's the best you can do. Reach out and touch someone's hand, but don't hold on too long. Right? Keep moving. Stay light on your feet. Learn how to swim with the sharks. That's the best advice parents can give these days. Whereas in Bhagavad Gita we find a different education. How indeed to be authentic, how to be for real. How to die, give up this body without having any regrets about how your life was lived. Perhaps you know about persons who've had near-death experiences, persons who've almost drowned. They all report a similar phenomenon. It's called the life review. They can just see their whole life pass through their consciousness in just a few seconds. They see everything. They see all the persons they hurt, all the opportunities that they spoiled, all the regrets, all the shame. It just passes through their consciousness very quickly. Persons who are almost drowned, they all say this. Persons who've had NDEs, near-death experiences, they say that. Now, if that happened to you, suddenly all the events of your life just passed through your consciousness very quickly. How would you feel? When they have this life review, they can actually see all the pain they've caused others, or they can see any good they've done for others. Could we tolerate it? And at that time, you can't tell yourself, well, look, this is the way the world is. I was just doing my best. No, you see it all flash before your eyes. Oh my gosh, I caused that person so much pain. Oh, I thought no one was looking when I did that. I thought it would be forgotten. Oh. It's very painful. So let's consider our hang-ups in a very deep way. That's what Krishna is asking us to do in Bhagavad Gita. He's telling Arjuna right in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, you're speaking big words, but actually you're hung up by thinking you're the body and mind. If you were smarter, you wouldn't do that. This hang-up is the cause of so many complicated problems. So I would propose that more important to us than whether we're going to be alone or not in life, more important it is to resolve this hang-up. What do you think? Because if you don't resolve this hang-up of thinking that we are the body and mind, if we don't resolve that, whatever we do is going to be a mistake, whether we're alone or with someone else. What do you think? So then the question is, how much are we prepared to rectify this hang-up? And everyone starts looking out the window. Well, I know what you mean theoretically, but we still have to live in this world. It is possible, while maintaining the externals of our life, it is possible to have as our priority internal spiritual development. We shouldn't just reject the possibility that, oh no, I can't do both. Either I'm going to be material or I'm going to be spiritual. So how about this? Until I'm old and gray, I'll be material, and then, when I'm 65 or 70, then I'll be spiritual. What do you think? You go for that?
Yeah. When it seems like hopeless, or it seems to start to get harder, you're like, I'll just enjoy myself now, and then
How will you enjoy yourself now? Tell us.
by doing all the things that you shouldn't.
Like what?
Drinking, partying, getting involved in conversations, mundane conversations, tempted to do drugs to kind of give you a different experience or a different perspective or something. It's just all these things that are not really going to lead up to anything. So for me, I know internally it's not going to really lead me up to anything.
But then still, why would you do it?
I think it comes back to that feeling in the beginning, just to share, just share experience.
Let's share illusion. Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That could be a good recruiting line. Hey, I've got some illusions I'd like to share with you. What do you think? Try it out. Let us know how it works. No, don't do that. It could become a new fad. You walk up to someone, hey, you really look like you're an illusion. I can relate to that. What do you think? Huh?
True.
Huh? Do what?
Unfortunately, it's true.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes.
I think when you're younger too, there's much more pressure when you're younger. So you think well, maybe when
Pressure? What kind of pressure?
To socialize or to get into certain.
Well, come on, you're not an old lady. What are you talking about when you're young?
That's what I'm saying. There's pressure to, go out with friends and get into things and.
We'll get into what, like?
Partying and drinking and socializing and, just activities.
So what has that done for your life?
I can't say nothing. I actually don't even know. It hasn't my life is still what it is now. It hasn't led me to anything bad, but nothing good at the same time. So I don't know the effects of it.
How would you propose to find out the effects to what you've done?
In comparison to how it's been when I've tried to lead a more spiritual life. When I compare it to that, you can feel the anxieties and the way your mind works a little bit better, and so when you do things.
So, if you take your life to a higher level, then you can actually have something to compare with. You can look down at the lower level and see, oh no, that is inferior pleasure. This is superior pleasure. Everyone should have that opportunity. And that's what Krishna is offering in Bhagavad Gita. You should have the opportunity to see what is superior pleasure. You spent countless lifetimes chasing the illusion, thinking you're the body and mind. Now is the time for something different. Give yourself a chance. So please remember what our real hang-up is, why we can't be for real, whether we use chemically enhanced relationship drugs or not, and that they are the body and mind. So Krishna challenges you in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. What is it about you that doesn't change, although the body is always changing? Krishna asks you to see that just like you change clothes, similarly you change bodies. So the real solutions of your life can't depend simply on the changing body and mind. Your relationships can't depend on the changing body and mind. So that is the message of Bhagavad Gita. Let's get spiritual. But that's not just some kind of sentimental quest. It involves knowledge. It involves retraining your consciousness, purifying your consciousness. It's like when you're very sick, you have to do some therapy. You've got to do things to purify your system. And then you can aspire to live a healthy life. But in a diseased condition, you can't enjoy. We're speaking materially. So Krishna's program is for purifying the consciousness so that you'll no longer be hung up trying to enjoy matter. Krishna gives you the topmost spiritual experience. And tasting that, you'll automatically let go of the lower material experiences. That's the Bhakti Yoga program. All right, any questions? Yes.
Could you explain further about distinguishing between the psychology and the soul and consciousness?
There is the gross physical body, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, that we can readily see, touch, feel, smell, and all that. And then there is the subtle body, or sometimes people call it the astral body, of mind, intelligence, and ego, particularly false ego. Some people can see auras and all that. Most can't. So, you are neither the gross covering or the subtle covering. In order to see the difference between the real you and your gross and subtle coverings, you need advanced consciousness. That advanced consciousness is the first gift that chanting Hare Krishna gives. The first installment is that you indeed start to experience that you are different from your body and mind. And then you start to wonder, why have I been pursuing such external, inferior experience when it's not me? How could I have done that to others also? So you feel regret, which is a good thing. I've been barking up the wrong tree. So every genuine spiritual practitioner has some amount of regret. What was I doing? Madness. I was just becoming a slave of my mind and senses. So by daily taking up the process of chanting Hare Krishna, the first thing you'll see is that actually I'm having an experience that I'm not the body and mind. And the next step is you'll notice your material hankerings and longings start to diminish. The fire of material desire starts to go down. Because it's that fire of material desire that's got you into so much trouble. Material life is characterized by two things: intense longing, intense hankering, and also intense lamentation, because you're losing what you have while you're hankering for more. So just try to see how your life has been that. Intense desires for something and intense lamentations because whatever little you have, you're losing. Amidst all that, there are some apparently bright moments, which are like fireflies, you know, they give off a quick glow at night. In California, are there fireflies?
Yes.
Yeah, so you know, they just flash momentarily. So you could truly say, aha, there is a glow. There have been some bright spots, but it's the bright spots like fireflies, engulfed by darkness, but every once in a while a firefly, lights up. Krishna wants to give us better than that. The love supreme, which is beyond physical and mental stimulation. That is the whole purpose of the Bhakti Yoga process. Living entities. Isn't that a goal worth striving for? And that is indeed what Krishna proposes to teach you in Bhagavad Gita. How to become dear to all living entities. But we're so desperate if we can become dear to one person for a weekend. Right? That's how desperate we are. And my goodness, if it lasts for a couple of years. And we don't expect it to last a lifetime. But anyway, that's just the way it is. We're so desperate. In our desperation, we overlook what Krishna is offering. Any other questions? Yes?
We were talking about, you were talking about how Krishna embraces getting our substance through, not through materialistic things, but through spirituality. Now, couldn't it be said that what you may not get, you can use them to assist you on your path to spiritual?
Well, yes, everything is Krishna's energy. So even though your body and mind are they can be tools to everything is Krishna.
Right.
There's different levels. Why not use the highest level? Why be cheap? Sell yourself short.
See, that's where I'm.
Use your temporary human form of life to go for the best.
That's what I'm trying to find for myself, trying to just, that balance of not needing to use something.
You want the best. You won't be satisfied unless you get the best. Don't kid yourself. For countless lifetimes you've been chasing broken pieces of glass. Now's the chance to go for the diamond. It is possible. But we've psyched ourselves out. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. It's difficult.
But to what point is it where we don't need that? We don't want to use something as a crutch, but we have to find it within ourselves. But we don't want to have attachment at the same time. That's
Don't want to have attachment to what?
we don't want to have attachment to using certain things to help us get there, get to spiritual contentment.
You cannot kill attachment. Simply, you have to learn how to be attached to the best thing. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, become attached to me. Consciousness has to be attached. So you give up the material attachment and take on the spiritual attachment. You must exist with attachment. All right, one last question. That's it? Okay.
Maharaj, there seems to be a time that it takes for us to let go of material enjoyment and start enjoying spiritual enjoyment. And it seems to take patience or some kind of intelligence to cultivate the understanding that it is possible. So if we are in that scenario, how to best cultivate this patience and continue to strive for spiritual goals?
By associating with those who are dedicated to achieving the best goals. We'll be enlivened by that kind of association. Everything depends on our association. We'll become like whom we associate with. You associate with materialists, you'll be affected. Yeah, forget all that spiritual stuff. Yeah, but all that. Right? Oh, you've been hanging out with that Krishna place, huh? Yeah, I can tell by the way you talk. Boy, you're really becoming a loser. Come on, we got a good weekend planned. We'll show you how to be the body. Right? You hang out with those types? Yeah. Those who are very driven for material success, you just got to get the money. It's out there. It's all about money. You associate a person like that, you become influenced. And similarly, you associate with persons who are spiritually greedy, you'll become spiritually greedy. So in genuine spiritual life, there is enthusiasm, greed, there's passion, but it's non-material. Sometimes I think we have this fear that if we become dedicated practitioners, we won't have any emotional drive anymore. What will happen to our interior life? That's unfounded fears. The Bhakti yogi is full of enthusiasm and drive and spiritual greed for spiritual attainment. Krishna wants us to come alive in our spiritual interior with all the spiritual emotional dynamics. When you do that, you realize that material life is very boring and shallow. An easy way to get insight into all this that I've been talking about is by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And it's time for us to do a bit of that. And we ask everyone to please participate. Everyone here has been in the kirtan before? Anyone? No? Okay. So we're going to ask the maximum contribution from your head and your heart combined. I read that one very famous baseball player, Ernie Banks, he asked the legendary Willie Mays, "What do you think about when you're stepping up into the batter's box to hit?" And Willie Mays replied, "What do I think about? I don't think about anything. It's not about thinking it. I simply see the ball and I hit it." So that's how to approach the Hare Krishna mantra. You just hear it. And let things happen. Okay? See the ball and hit it. You just hear the Hare Krishna mantra. Connect with it that way. All right, let's do some chanting.